Hey, everybody, welcome on back. It's the Rubbin' Is Racing podcast. It's brought to you by NASCAR, and then there were eight. These eight drivers that are left in the playoffs have won 23 of the 32 races so far this season, so it looks like NASCAR is getting it right with who's left over. We have three more races left before the finals in Phoenix, and this Sunday, October 15th at 2:30 Eastern Time, the South Point 400 from Las Vegas Motor Speedway goes down, mile and a half intermediate track. You can catch all the action on NBC. We won't be there in Vegas. Our next trip will be out in Phoenix for the finals, and our last trip had us out in Charlotte, and we had a fucking ball. So this is Rubbin' Is Racing. Here we go. We'll start with some headlines. I think it's kind of nice. We got Vegas guys left. We have Vegas, we have Homestead, and we have Martinsville. So 2.5 miles and then the short track. Homestead announced that they will change the race name to the Forever 400 presented by Mobil 1. That's in honor of Kevin Harvick, who obviously drives the 4 car. So it's going to be the number Forever 400 presented by Mobil 1. This kind of reminds me of, remember when Jeter was retiring and every time he'd go to a different ball, like a different baseball field, they'd give him like a pair of boots. They'd give him
the retirement tour.
Yeah, it's like his retirement tour. I think we're going to talk a little while about like Eric Almirola and maybe him walking away or something like that. I just don't know enough about it. Is this too much? Is this fitting? Do other drivers get this? Is Kevin I love Kevin Harvick, Hall of Fame driver and all that stuff. But do you think like a guy like Eric Almirola feels like shit that maybe he'll just announce on a Tuesday that he's going to be retired and there'll be no fanfare?
Eric Almirola kind of strikes me as a guy that would be cool with having no attention regarding his future plans. Mm-hmm. Like he seems kind of like he's got a little bit of Truex in him, whereas like he doesn't necessarily love the spotlight or the attention. I'm sure obviously he would love some recognition for the career he's had, but I don't think it's too much for Harvick. Back to the Jeter thing, I did think it was a little bit too much with Jeter, or in baseball. I feel like a lot of times these guys have ridiculous ceremonies, or even like Barry Bonds hitting the 500th home run or whatever it was. They stopped the game and did a giant celebration. So I don't know. It could be way worse in my opinion.
Yeah,
and
I don't think they're overdoing it at all. Like,
yeah, if anything,
I feel like there hasn't been a ton of stuff for Harvick, like compared to like Jeter. It almost became a thing that the teams he played had to like put on a show for him. I'd say like overall Harvick's stuff has been pretty quiet. Like, what have they done other than this, I guess?
I think I asked the question incorrectly because I was trying to put it together in my tiny brain and I couldn't. So does a guy like Martin Truex, remember Martin Truex when he didn't win a race last year and then there's all of a sudden questions about whether or not he was going to come back? And then obviously the Almirola stuff, it's not apples to apples anyway. Almirola and Kevin Harvick are very, there's a huge difference between them. But do drivers feel compelled, do you think, or is it a case-by-case basis to have that victory season, that victory lap season? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, as opposed to just in the off-season be like, you'll never see me again on a track, for all intents and purposes.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a bit of, like, we know for a fact Harvick's done. Like, I truly believe he's done. I think he's not going to be racing full-time again. Like, with Truex and stuff, it's like they were kind of using the retirement as, like, a negotiation tactic to get more, and like we never fully like believed Truex was going to be done. I think you just kind of like treat that differently. Like if they were to do, it'd be so dumb if they were doing like a Truex like named race for his last season when it's like up in the air. Yeah. I just don't think you get that unless like, other than like age and like knowing for a fact like, hey, this is their last season no matter what.
Yeah.
It's interesting dynamic because I feel like a lot of times these drivers, by the time, like you said, Large, Martin Truex, 0 wins last year, he could have been looking at that like, damn, I fell off a cliff, like my skill is gone. People like Denny Hamlin talked on the show about how quick it is for these drivers to regress with their talent and their skill and how quick they can just fall off a cliff. And part of me is like, for Truex to get 0 wins and then to come back this year and be dominant. It's very interesting dichotomy, but I think if you have to be really good and truly believe that you have the car, the talent, the equipment still remaining if you're going to do what Martin Truex did and come back and still dominate in this fashion as we've seen this year following a season last year when he had 0 wins.
Do you guys think, and to your point that you made, Quiggs, that it hasn't been so much pomp and circumstance? This is very nice what Homestead is doing, don't get me wrong. So who is that is close to retiring, or is it around that age where they've been in there for a while where they may retire? And right away, like Kyle Busch, Denny Hamlin, and Martin Truex, and we're talking about older drivers. Do you think somebody's going to have one of those real Jeter-esque type last seasons? Like, Chase Elliott obviously is the fan favorite and the golden boy of NASCAR, but he's also a very young man. Do you think a guy, perhaps a former villain like Kyle Busch or Denny Hamlin, like Denny's like, fuck it, you know what? I'm building a short track, and I got 23-11. I just won in 2023. Just saying that. I'm walking away. Like, do you think there's a huge Jeter-esque bon voyage tour out there that we're going to see in a couple of years?
Honestly, I don't. I look at it as you look at the names in NASCAR that have left in the last 10 years versus the ones that will leave in the next 10 years. And to me, the guys that have already left are way bigger stars, household names, familiar faces for a lot of these fan bases. And right now, I think NASCAR is struggling to kind of sell their new personalities, the new drivers, get their fans familiar with them. So for that reason, I think that if this were to happen, it would have happened already. I do think Harvick and Kyle Busch and Denny and maybe Kyle Larson are deserving of, some sort of retirement tour or moves like the Harvick name race. But I think it's going to be a while before we get there. These guys still, Kyle Busch, Denny Hamlin, those guys are relatively old, but I could still see them racing for an extended period of time from today. They both just signed new contracts and seem to be more committed than ever. So those guys will probably be around for a little longer. And I'm not sure anyone, if it's not Harvick, then I don't know who else is getting the Jeter retirement tour.
I think Busch, out of anyone, is the name that
would
would happen for.
I would agree with Quiggs. To me, the most deserving out of any of the active drivers is Kyle Busch. But then again, back to my point, we've heard Kyle previously state that he wants to race until he can race alongside Brexton. Whatever that means in his brain is still kind of unclear. But point is, it seems like Kyle Busch is around for a long time.
I tell you, we can tell you firsthand, Spider and I were in the drivers' meeting down in Charlotte. And obviously with Kyle Busch so far below the cut line, and obviously things didn't work out for him. He's eliminated from the playoffs. He wasn't friendly at all this weekend. He went right, like Spider had pointed out something that, and for NASCAR fans who haven't been to, the track maybe, there's a drivers meeting and it's wild. All these guys, right before they get in the car, they get together. They still do some handshaking with some, guests and whatnot. They walk out of a drivers meeting down a red carpet, throw on their fucking helmets, and pop in the car. It's crazy. And at the drivers meeting, they get like specific rules. This track, the speed limit on pit row is this. Like they go through all that stuff. And Spider had pointed out how it's almost becomes a lunchroom, right? Like people sit with certain people and chat. I'll let you see what clicks. I'll let you talk about what clicks you saw develop. But Kyle Busch, first one in, sits front row on the aisle, doesn't say a fucking thing to anyone, and nobody sat anywhere near him. You know what I mean? Because they know the tensions are high. Even his brother Kurt was across the aisle from him, and he was the grand marshal, along with another young lady who we're going to get into in a sec. And like when they announced Kurt, I think Kurt went to go give him a fist bump, and Kyle was straight ahead. Like, not today, man. I got one fucking job. What else did you see in that drivers meeting, Spider?
Well, I forget who it was speaking that I was like stunned by, and I pointed out to you. Was it Ty Gibbs and Chase Elliott sitting next to each other in the drivers meeting?
I know
it was Ty Gibbs.
It was. I know that Austin Dillon was hanging with. Who the hell was he hanging with? There's all these little clicky things, right?
I was gonna say, if you go to Talladega or Daytona and you want to know who's gonna be pushing each other and working together, locking bumpers, go into the drivers' meeting pre-race and see who's hanging out, who's rubbing shoulders, who's sitting by who. It's very much a lunchroom vibe.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Couple other
question for you guys
Please.
from the drivers' meeting is that the first one you've been to, or have you been to multiple?
We've been to multiple, and the thing is that it's kind of open to some people who have pit row passes, and then sometimes they let you like beyond the barrier, which we were able to do again this time. So you felt like you were sitting there with the drivers as opposed to the crowd behind them, and it's a little bit different each time. They bring in like a notary person from the track or from the town that they're rolling in. Like I said, they introduce who the grand marshals and stuff are, and then they'll run some sort of thing about the rules. It's sort of like, it's reminiscent of that video that you get before the plane takes off. You know what I mean? The emergency exits.
That's what I was going to ask was, for the Roval, did it seem like drivers were paying more attention than usual? Because, I don't know, you race at Talladega, you kind of have like one rule, like just don't go below the yellow line, stuff like that, where the Roval, it seemed like, had like very specific, like, this is considered out of bounds, this is considered miss a turn, for this you do a stop and go, for this you do a pass through. Like, did it have way more rules, and like, were the drivers paying attention, or do they know that, like, they already know it?
It did seem like a longer than normal meeting, just given the Roval and all the rules and like turn here, pit here, etc. But the drivers, surprisingly, and maybe I'm naive or like ignorant, they never seem to be like super attentive. Maybe as Large said, Kyle Busch was locked in, but like, I don't know. It seemed like they were just kind of there like because they had to be.
And they probably already know. It's like if they did like the rules of an NFL game before an NFL game, like players got it already. Like they're
like,
playing
I'm
at
sure
the highest level, they know.
For the Chicago street race, or maybe like the first Clash ever, they maybe had a more extensive drivers meeting. But I feel like if it's a track they've been at before or they are super familiar with, they don't really pay attention.
I mean, I know from boxing, it's, let's have a clean fight, no hitting below the belt, obey my commands at all times and come out fighting, right? Like that type of stuff. And the boxers don't have to pay attention to it. I was glued to this one. And I think to your point, Quiggs, because there's so many different little nuances. And then to Spider's point, as I'm glued, particularly, there was a point in the race where Chase Elliott was about to pit, and they had seen the caution was coming out. So he turned before the box and didn't have all four tires inside. Like I was intently listening. Like I knew exactly what that rule was because I was in the drivers meeting. And the rest of the drivers, were having spitball fights because they kind of knew that the whole thing was happening. I heard the word chicane more times than I ever want to hear it again. There's so many different moving parts, particularly to the Roval, that I found it to be a little bit overwhelming, but they seem to have taken it in stride.
Did you see on the chicanes, by the way, they painted little Ninja Turtles on each of the corners?
Yeah. And they changed the masks, too. Like, it wasn't just all Donatello's. They had, like, different ones throughout. So, it was impressive. Couple of guys got the bag. Austin Cindric said over the weekend he'll return to the number 2 Team Penske Ford in the NASCAR Cup Series in 2024. Congratulations to Cindric. Chandler Smith is linked to Joe Gibbs Racing for 2024. This was from Sportsnot. Smith, who signed a 3-year deal with Kaulig before this season with select starts in the Cup Series, has interest in moving to Joe Gibbs Racing and return to the Toyota pipeline next season, and such a move would require a buyout of the 2 remaining years of his contract. So people are still moving and shaking around here. We had heard, I think, after we had recorded last week. Oh, by the way, apologies. There was some disruption on Spider's feed last week, so it's nice to hear the dulcet tones of Dan Diorio this week. It looks like we're tight again, which is great. Thank you to our producers.
Yeah, shout out Mike, our producer, Liam, our producer. I got one thing to say about that. Direct all audio complaints regarding last week to Brandon Walker.
Yes.
I was meant to be in this beautiful studio I'm in now, and he just eminent domained my ass out of here. So it's an uphill battle for Rubbing His Racing. I appreciate how upset you guys were with the audio problems, because that tells me people are actually wanting to listen. So.
Right.
Hopefully this week's better. Hopefully we'll be better for the rest of the season. But I appreciate you guys sticking with us and blame Brandon Walker.
We're in a situation where when we transfer these audio files in to be published, we're not privy to how they sound. They sound good on our end, and they don't sound good once it gets published. And once it's out there, it's impossible, particularly with Spider and I traveling this week, it's impossible to then re-record, unfortunately. So, but everything's tight today. So Chandler Smith will have to get bought out of his contract with Kaulig to go to Joe Gibbs Racing for 2024. This had dropped right after we recorded last week. Haley Deegan, a friend of ours, friend of us, after 3 years in trucks, she'll move up to NASCAR Xfinity in 2024. That's good news for Haley. She agreed to a multi-year contract to drive AM Racing's number 15 Ford, beginning with the season opener at Daytona International Speedway. A lot of people think that she hasn't been doing this long enough, that she doesn't deserve it. There's only one way to tell, and that's to see what her performance is when she gets there. Perhaps she does have some of the backing that obviously these teams so desperately need. So, there's always an argument that there's a more talented driver not getting the shot. I think there's always going to be that argument, but we're extremely happy for Haley and looking forward to seeing her wheeling an Xfinity truck next year. This was dropped yesterday. Carson Hocevar is going to wheel the 77 for Spire, which means that Ty Dillon is out of a ride. We have some stories about Carson Hocevar from the weekend, but let's concentrate on this for a little bit. I had seen a wild stat. It came from somebody named Avery Hage. Corey LaJoie has the best worst finish this season among all full-time drivers. Full-time drivers, meaning that Corey's worst finish was better than everybody else's worst finish in NASCAR. That's wild. His worst finish was 33rd, meaning that, the greatest drivers that you think have finished 33rd or lower. And then conversely, his teammate Ty Dillon has the worst best finish. Everybody else who's a full-time driver has somehow managed to sneak into the top 10 at some point or another during the season, of full-time drivers, whereas Ty Dillon, his best finish this season was 11th. And now Ty Dillon is without a car, and Carson Hocevar is going to wheel the 77. How do you guys feel about that?
I'm excited to see Carson.
Yeah, it feels kind of no-brainer. You can't. Ty Dillon has been, for all intents and purposes, not racing this year. He just hasn't been involved in anything. He's never been up there. And then you got a guy who shows a ton of promise. I think you have to make that switch and swap him out. Just give him a shot. They're always going to be a little bit behind, just the equipment Spire's using, but I don't know how much Hocevar could be a bad move compared to Ty Dillon. I think you have to improve a little bit.
The ceiling is definitely way higher for Carson Hocevar,
Yeah.
Young kid who's worked his way up and seemingly the last 12 months, just climbing the ranks through the NASCAR series. But to me, my biggest takeaway from all this is that Kaulig is down tremendous, in my opinion. They went from having Justin Haley and AJ Allmendinger, two guys who seemed pretty competitive, racy, if you will. Mm-hmm. And then it sounds like AJ Allmendinger, I saw a report that he's going to be demoted back to Xfinity, which is a crazy story to hear after he just won the Roval. So usually you get rewarded and, taken care of for winning races at the highest level in NASCAR. It seems like this is going to be opposite case. There's a lot of smoke that says Ty Dillon could potentially go to Kaulig. And if that's the case, I think it's a little disappointing given the young free agents that were available this year. We saw Zane Smith struggle to find a Ford ride and ultimately went to Trackhouse. Is this someplace that he could have landed? Or, there's a lot of, I don't know. I think Kaulig, they looked really, really good, and I was in on them. And now, for whatever reason, they're taking a step back.
So are you guys under the impression that Carson Hocevar is a better driver than Ty Dillon?
Yes.
You said a better ceiling, Spider, and I agree with that because obviously Hocevar is a younger kid. Tall as shit too.
Yeah.
He's one of the taller drivers that I've met. So you think that he's a better guy, and you're not blaming Ty Dillon's performances more on the car that he's wheeling?
I think Ty Dillon is serviceable. I mean, I think I saw a stat on the Reddit page that he's been pretty good about keeping the car clean. Yeah. I'm not super confident or reading into that, but that is valuable for some of these teams. So maybe Kaulig sees value in the fact that they won't have torn up equipment, but yeah, if you just in a vacuum, who's the better driver, Carson Hocevar or Ty Dillon? I'm taking Carson Hocevar 10 times out of 10. And to me, I've seen enough in the short appearances, the few part-time appearances he's ran in the Cup Series this year, and I'm still confident enough to say that. And that's nothing against Ty Dillon. It's just I'm pretty bullish on Carson Hocevar.
And Quiggs, you're under the same impression that you'd rather Carson Hocevar behind your wheel?
Yeah, I mean, I would put Ty Dillon up there with the worst drivers in NASCAR. So, no, I'm not saying Hocevar is going to be a star or anything, but he's young, shows a bunch of promise, was a monster in the Truck Series, and I think as like a race team, that's the direction you have to go. Like you have to try that out over Dillon, who's been around for a long time and like still this year, if you're going off like the stat you gave, was the worst driver in the series.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. To me, Colleague fumbled bad in the last 2 weeks or so. I mean, you replaced Justin Haley and A.J. Allmendinger, who is your only well, I shouldn't say that. Justin Haley's pretty good at plate tracks and pretty overperforming in the equipment he was given. But Dinger winning Cup races and then getting replaced. Justin Haley, a young kid that looked pretty good and was consistently improving, replaced. And Chandler Smith on the Xfinity Series getting replaced. I mean, those are three respectable drivers that I'd rather have than probably both Daniel Hemrick or Ty Dillon. So
I got to be honest, though, like if all of a sudden with Carson Hocevar going to Spire and Spire seeming to have pretty deep pockets and spending money and putting, a better 77 out on the track, right? And he does better. I think it's almost unfair to Ty Dillon. Like all of a sudden he's like, what do you mean? I've been driving fucking lawnmowers. Now you guys put some real money into it. I think I could have done pretty well in that. Instead you put this kid who Austin Dillon, by the way, last week, Austin Dillon, so there's a little bit of a connection there, had said that he didn't like racing with the kid, that the kid wasn't very good at Talladega, right? He couldn't keep a lane and all that stuff. So I don't know. I'm hoping that, Carson Hocevar is great. I don't know if this was a fair measuring stick for Ty Dillon. So I'm hoping that he gets another shot to show us that he's good. By the way, this is going to be a hell of a Rookie of the Year run next year. I have to get the answer to whether or not it goes into our next story. Stewart Haas Racing was linked to Noah Gragson for the number 10 car, Cup car in 2024. That's if Eric Almirola walks away. There's rumors that Gragson would then step into the 10. Is Gragson still have his rookie status since he didn't finish out that first year?
No.
I don't think so.
No, because he didn't have a full year. He's never been full time, right?
Someone had DM me the benchmark for what it is, and I'm going to try to find it.
So
I would go, I mean, if Spider has an actual benchmark, but I would think if he had like a Bowman style thing where it's like he's missing races because of an injury, maybe they would be like, okay, that doesn't count as your rookie year. But like if you're missing races because of a suspension, they're probably like, nah, we're not even going to put you in the Rookie of the Year.
I don't know if I find that to be fair, to be honest with you. Like, I don't, and what about the guys who are returning that had tried their luck? Like John Hunter, right? John Hunter had gone up and went down and has gone back up. So is he not in contention?
He's not.
He's not in contention because it's obviously he's rode, he's wheeled in the Cup Series before. So who do we have then as true Rookies of the Year candidates next year other than Carson and Zane?
I think it's just the Spire, Trackhouse Spire guys, if you will.
What about Josh?
But eligible, Josh Berry. Oh, Josh Berry, yeah. I think. I don't know, but a driver must be competing for driver championship points in the series, and that driver must not have completed more than 7 events in any season prior in that series.
Okay, so that's our answer.
So John Hunter and Noah Gragson both ineligible. Shout out to whoever cleared that up a couple weeks ago, but there is the actual 7 events.
What do you guys think about Noah Gragson in the 10?
Surprising.
I fucking love it though. If it happens and it's not, how confident are you on that rumor, Spidey? Give it a grade.
I'm going to put it at a C. This is not my rumor.
Nope.
It's someone else's work. It's Bob Pockrass's rumor. So I guess that should provide some good credibility and belief into what this is. But it also is kind of a little it seems like a little hard for me to believe. I don't know who else would go to the 10, if not Eric Almirola or Noah. Like, does Riley Herbst get a look for the 10 car? He's been in Stuart Haas organization. I don't know. It all depends on, in my opinion, on how much sponsorship and money Noah can bring in. I think if he's to get the 10 car, it's going to require some substantial financial backing.
So, which I think we don't know, but maybe he brings Wendy's with him. We don't know. Obviously, that hasn't been public or in talks yet. But just think about the complexion of Stuart Haas. If Gragson comes aboard, they just lose, a generational driver in Kevin Harvick. They replace him with Josh Berry, who I like. And then you have guys who are coming into their own, like especially with the shake and bake thing. And with Ryan Preece's spectacular, performance after flipping 10.5 times in the air. That stable would be Josh Berry, Chase Briscoe, Ryan Preece, and Noah Gragson. That'd be pretty fun fucking team.
I will say
it's a fun team.
They would lead.
He'd be kind of failing upwards at that point.
Yeah.
They would also lead the garage in terms of like drivers with actual personalities and not robots.
Yeah, I think so. Like you could, if you do the shake and bake thing next year, you put fucking Gragson in the Perrier car and have him embrace that, that character too. I think it'd be, I don't know. It seems like a fun foursome, and I'm putting the cart before the horse because I don't know if it's reported by that hack Bob Pockrass. I give it a D+.
I think the most sensible thing in this whole carousel would be for Noah to drive a Colleague car, and then Ty Dillon maybe goes to the Colleague Xfinity ride that Chandler Smith is vacating.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know.
So all this stuff should become pretty clear over the next couple of weeks, and I'm here for it. I'm here for a Stuart Haas team next year. That is, although Eric Almirola driving the Perrier car, like he could fit that character too. It doesn't seem like he fits in with the jokester type thing that we've gotten from some of the other people in that team. Before I move on to a recap from this weekend, we did get a letter from a gentleman named Tyler Noble. I kept saying how John Hunter Nemechek, I don't know why he's not wheeling the 42 for the rest of the season. He pointed out something that should have been pretty clear to me. I apologize. He can't drive the 42 because he's a Toyota driver and that car's a Chevy. No one is allowed to drive for a different manufacturer ever, I guess, within the confines of the season. And we know that the 40, we know what's going to happen to the 42 next year. So that clears it up. I won't complain about it anymore. Thank you so much, Tyler Noble. And with that, we're going to go into the recap and the over-under from this past weekend in Charlotte. It's brought to you by Coke. Coke Zero Sugar is one of these things that I'm pouring into my glass right now. Spider and I were down there with the Coke people this weekend. Devlin also was there with us. Man, it's just a first-class operation. I don't think I have to tell people that. The Agua Frescas, which is Minute Maid, which is a Coke product, was front and center. Daniel Suarez had driven that. So there's a bunch of hullabaloo around that. But we were in the Coke hospitality box. We were talking to a bunch of the guys who work there. And on top of them being a partner of ours, like you really feel friendly with them. So as good as I feel drinking a Coke while I'm watching the race, I feel even better drinking a Coke watching the race with the Coke people in the Coke hospitality suite. Cheers to them. Is there a better Coke out there? There's only one way to find out. Is this the best Coke ever? There's only one way to find out. You got to give it a whirl. Alrighty, Spider, let's get into it. We had a hell of a trip. Quigs, you missed out. I signed your name on the track.
I saw that. Thank you for spreading the message.
You're very welcome. But Spider and I had gone down to Charlotte this week. It was my first time in Charlotte. Spider had been there before. I love that city. I really enjoy Charlotte. I think it's a great city. But we went down there specifically. The reason we went down early was twofold. We had to play in a charity kickball event, and then we had to go and do some garage work with the KBM people. And both things worked out swimmingly. Spider, talk to me about this kickball event. What did you think of it? The whole deal.
The kickball thing was a well-oiled machine. So to set the scene, we played competitive kickball games. I think on the big minor league baseball field, there were 3 games happening at a time. And then later in the night, we all competed against each other. Now, there were 4 teams in like the celebrity or like influencer bracket, if you will. Large and I's team, and then obviously 3 other teams. We finished 4th out of 4 teams, so tough showing. But we had some good, a lot of fun on our team. We had Mamba on our team. We had Bernard Pollard. We had Rutledge Wood. We had Bob Pockeris. So many more people. I'm forgetting.
Yeah,
but
there's
yeah,
too many to mention. We had so many goddamn people. That guy,
Really good
Justin
time.
Danger. The guy.
Justin Danger.
Did you know that, moths don't blink when they eat? Now you do. That guy, Chris, the stand-up comedian.
The comedian.
Oh, he was awesome, too.
He's the man.
Yeah. So we really had a great time. But go ahead. I didn't play. I had told Quiggs had actually told me the dangers of chiropractic after a chiropractor had popped my rib. So I didn't play. I was there all suited up, did everything that we could do. Bernard Pollard came over to me and said, I heard you got banged up ribs. I was like, yeah, Bernard, Patriot killer. I had a chiropractor pop a rib on me. He's like, man, there's no way you can play. Same thing happened to me. I was playing the Patriots, and some guy had broken 4 of my ribs. I finished the quarter, but then I couldn't play in the second half. I was like, Bernard, that's nothing like what happened to
don't
me.
compare those two situations.
I had a tiny Jewish chiropractor mount me like a fucking Clydesdale and pop my osteoporotic fucking rib. Don't ever and then he goes up to bat, and Bernard Pollard, first up to bat, he toes one. A couple of people hit home runs, put it out of the actual stadium. He toes one out of the stadium, across the road, and into the 3rd floor balcony of the apartment building across the street from the fucking stadium.
Holy
cow.
It
was very, 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 very impressive. And I'll tell you what, Spider, running shit down, RBIs.
I put out Zane Smith. I scored the only run,
Yes.
RBI, in the first game. Yeah, I'm pretty much nasty at kickball. Who would have known?
I kind of knew that you were, and you sort of proved it. You know who else is pretty nasty at kickball? Fucking Cole Custer.
Cole Custer.
Cole Custer.
Really?
Sneaky third baseman. I told him when I saw him the next day at the race, I was like, it wasn't pretty, man, but you got it done. Cole, like a smart player. And I can't stress to everyone listening, these guys were playing for real. Oh, by the way, Danielle Trotta was on our team. She's
Danielle
Trotta.
Yeah.
Yeah. She
I knew I was forgetting.
Yeah, I'd said, oh, you're one of my wife's favorite personalities, particularly in racing and stuff. So she's very gracious with pictures and whatnot. Beautiful woman, bonk. But like to watch like Bubba Wallace playing catcher, and every time a ball was rolled down, he was running out with it. Every at bat, every pitch, Bubba's running out as soon as the guy, in case somebody like just sort of blooped a little short bunt or whatever. These guys, Ricky Stenhouse, Carson Hocevar ran down a fly ball, catches it, falls down, and he grabs his knee. He was laying on his back in center field for a while, and everyone's like, what the fuck are we doing? Like, I believe that's his driving leg, obviously. So it was very competitive, but Corey LaJoy and his team, shout out Leanne. Leanne was the person who seemed to be the brains behind the operation. They put together a great event at the Kannapolis Cannonballer Stadium, and we had a fucking ball. And last thing I'll say about that is the goodie bags were par excellence, including a faux mink blanket that I wound up having to check an extra bag on my way home so I could take all the stuff home. And I slept with it last night, and I slept like a goddamn angel. So shout out to everybody. I don't know if we're going to be able to do it next year or not. I mean, obviously we'd love to, but all the way around, it was a great thing. And a bunch of people had bid on our jerseys. So we wound up selling our jerseys for however much they went to. So shout out to whoever got a sweaty Spider jersey. So that was Thursday. Friday, Spider and I had gone to the Kyle Busch Motorsports HQ. We're trying to do some stuff with those guys. Just great team. And we had never visited a shop before, at least not together. So Spider and I went out to Kyle Busch Motorsports shop out in like maybe 25 minutes from downtown Charlotte. What'd you think of that place, Spider? Impressive as shit.
I thought it was really cool. I've been to a couple team shops before, but never KBM. Really cool. My personal favorite part of that whole thing was they gave us a pretty extensive tour. I'm not sure everyone can get that tour. That sounded like a douchey brag.
No.
My point is, they took us into this like back room, and they had a whole section for Brexton's cars. They had his dirt car, they had a Bandolero,
That's awesome.
and I was geeking out. I was like, is this where he gets his cars done? And it was just really cool. And then Kyle Busch's dad came through the shop for a second. We saw him. He's like, am I interrupting you guys? And we were like, absolutely not. No, are we interrupting you? Just very cool scene. And then also the gift shop. So they had a lot of cool stuff on sale in the history of it. Some of the best Kyle Busch cars that he's ever ran. The Kellogg's, the M&M's. Some of the best stuff is in this shop. And the gift shop is incredible, too. They were selling used fire suits, excuse me. So you could buy Bubba Wallace's fire suit. I think it was $3,000. Large was thinking about it for a second.
I was, yeah. If I found a big one, I might have pulled the trigger, but nothing that would even come close to me. And obviously, you know about Kyle Busch Motorsports being bought. So they on top of the gift shop that Spider was talking about, there was also almost an everything must go type part to the gift shop, with all this like memorabilia and stuff. And I think the proceeds of that stuff might go to maybe the mechanics or something. I don't know how much of the Kyle Busch KBM people are being picked up on their next stop or not. But just a great experience, great people. And like you said, you'd been to shops before. We'd never been to a shop together. That was pretty fucking cool. And I think there was some accessibility to the general public. I had flown with a young lady named Teresa. She's from Fairlawn, New Jersey, and like I saw her there. I actually saw her at the kickball event, that I actually saw at the race also. So I think people who can just show up can get a really good experience. And again, we're trying to push the experience of going to a NASCAR track. And if you're ever in Charlotte, go visit these goddamn shops. They're awesome. And then I guess we should mention one restaurant that you should go visit, because we finally got to, whenever Denny's on the show, I mention that Denny has an older guy in his posse that always busts my balls after Denny wins. Did you have Denny? That type thing? And that's Red Rocks Ron. And so we went to Red Rocks Ron's place on Thursday. What you think, Spider? Give it a 1 to 10.
I thought it was great.
Yeah, it was wonderful.
Really cool restaurant in North Carolina there, Red Rocks Ron. It's got a great spot. The place was massive. Pull up, there's just people waiting to valet your car right in front. Then you go in, there's like seemingly 700 seats in this restaurant. Really cool to be there. As you said, Large, we become kind of good friends with Ron over the last couple seasons, and we got the chance to go there. So it was really cool being there, seeing his kind of home shop, if you will. And then also just sitting there at dinner with him, watching the amount of people that came up and would just whisper something in his ear.
Right.
Like I felt like I was in like fucking Goodfellas or something he felt like a mob boss. It was really cool.
Bizarre turn of events is that on the wall, sort of like for people who've been to like the Palm Steakhouse in New York City, there's caricatures of people who have been guests or customers of this steakhouses in place. I had my opportunity to be on the wall at the Palm because I was meeting a threshold. Like I was spending so much money there, with a corporate card, not my own, that they were, they had said I was almost where I could put my character on the wall. That's not the case in Red Rocks. Like Red Rocks, if he likes you, Ron, he'll put a little framed cartoon like you'd get on a boardwalk of you on the wall. So when you sit down, you obviously notice most of the faces. And I sat down, and behind me was one of the cartoons was a smoking hot blonde, and it was Alex Bennett. Because Alex was friendly with those guys. He'd been there a couple of times. Alex and the Mean Girls are no longer part of Barstool. They're going to go off and make millions on their own. But I can't shake this girl. She's staring at me as I'm drinking as I'm eating the Red Rocks shrimp or whatever the hell I had. So it was kind of cool. It was a cool meal. And Red Rocks Ron, afterwards took us for like a little tour. Drove us by Denny's house. I'm not sure Denny was crazy about that. Took us over where like Michael Jordan's mom lives, where Joe Gibbs lives. The golf course around this, this beautiful Lake Norman, I believe.
Yeah.
I don't know. Just really, Quiggs, you would have loved it. I think you would have loved the whole thing. So
I should have went back.
Quiggs, have you ever been to Saeed's karaoke bar in North Carolina?
Is that in downtown or uptown Charlotte?
I think it's more like closer to the team shops, but
that's probably all like Concord area, which I never did too much out there except go to the mall.
The few drivers I spoke with this week were telling me that if after a race win, a lot of the drivers go and do karaoke and get fucked up at this place called Saeed's, which
That's
sounds
awesome.
incredible. So I had to know if you ever had been there.
No, never there.
We'll have to check it out.
Red Rocks was
next
in
time.
Birkdale. Then we drove around in this like real high-end neighborhood. Then we went to some speakeasy with the shout out Monster guys. By the way,
Yeah.
like Spider's close friends with a couple of the guys from Monster Energy, and as you would
my
imagine,
guy JD.
JD, as you would imagine, they're a ton of fun to fucking hang out with. Shots,
Almost
and
too much fun.
yeah. So
They
had,
were trying to get me hammered.
I know. So they have a new like 6%er or something, and they were making some mixed drinks with it. We were there. Wasn't any drivers. I think just Kurt Busch was at the speakeasy where they had that one guy with the guitar performing, and he was awesome. That guy was fantastic. And the Monster Energy guys, shout out to them. They always treat us with a tremendous amount of hospitality. We don't, we're not sponsored by them at all or anything like that, but we had a fucking ball with those dudes while we were there. All right, let's talk about the race if we can. I told you we went to the drivers' meeting. After the drivers' meeting, there was almost a huge love connection. Quiggs, you had seen this, right? This thing with Spider and Liv.
Oh,
Morgan?
yes. I saw this.
Can I ask you, Quiggs?
It took off.
As somebody who was not there, right? Devlin happened to catch that little back and forth with Spider and the WWE's Liv Morgan, who's a stunningly beautiful young blonde girl who did the driver start your engines thing. And she came over. We went over to us just to introduce ourselves. Our CEO has a connection with WWE. Erica used to be on the board there. So every now and again, I speak to people about Erica, and they all have fond memories of her and whatnot. And then as we took a picture with this, again, stunning young lady, Spider had asked her, who are you pulling for today? She bent into his ear and whispered something. And I'm telling you, Spider walked away like the cat that just ate the canary. Quiggs, what do you think? What do you think was the Kaiser Soze moment? What do you think she whispered in his ear that got your boy? I'm telling you right now, he wasn't right for about 10 minutes.
Oh, no.
He wasn't right. He wasn't right.
I genuinely have no idea what she said, but it just tangled every like neuron in its brain to where he came back and was trying to explain what she said, and it was just a string of random words. Like he couldn't form a sentence himself. He's like, yeah, she 1-2 knocked me punch.
Yeah, guilty.
Like-
Guilty.
No, and I don't blame you. Like that was.
I didn't even know. I'm not really a WWE fan. Maybe
Yeah.
that's something I get into in the near future here, given how viral this clip went. But Large, we were in the driver's meeting area, and Large was like, hey, we should go say hi to her. She's a WWE fighter. And I was like, okay, sure.
You're
Next
welcome.
thing you know, I think she's now like my long-lost crush or something. So I think, I don't know, I've never been rattled like that. Like, that's, believe it or not, I don't usually speak to girls like that, and that's the transaction. I'm not usually like that blown off my feet. So shout out Liv, big fan of hers. But yeah, she absolutely crossed my wires. I was just expecting a casual hello, good to meet you, like enjoy the race. And then she just hit me with whatever the hell that was. And to be honest, I'm not sure I'm even recovered right now.
You know what? We talk about our experiences with NASCAR. And again, we couldn't be more thankful for everyone in NASCAR and stuff for the experiences that we have. And I think people who are long-time fans sort of say, oh, man, you guys are so fucking lucky that you got to do this. Or I wish, I'm living through you and whatnot. But it's pretty civil. Wrestling fans are not as civil. And they come at you. Like, they're like, who the fuck is that guy who get to talk to Liv like that? You know what I mean? Like, they come at, first of all, as soon as they see some of their following tagged. I remember when we did Barstool Breakfast, anytime we had a wrestler on, those numbers would automatically go up for the YouTube on that part of the, because they just digest whatever they can. So when Spider got rizzed up by this young lady, they came out of the fucking woodworks saying, he folded like a lawn chair. What did he do to deserve this? Who is this guy? Get him out of here.
The internet was kind of split. Some people were like, he's a better man than me. I would have dropped to my feet. I would have started barking. Like, I would have collapsed right there.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. But we're now following each other. We'll see where our relationship goes from here. I am planning on DMing her. There was a report. I saw someone tweet out a graphic. They made like a graphic as if this was like breaking news, which I'm cool with. Like Liv was it Liv Morgan? Liv Moore?
Yeah, forget about it. Forget. Act like you don't know it's Liv Morgan. Son of a
Liv
bitch.
Morgan.
Yeah.
So they were like, who is this random dude spotted with Liv Morgan? She was reportedly in a relationship with this other WWE fighter.
Yeah.
So now I probably got a WWE fighter coming for my ass.
You home wrecking?
Yeah.
So that, and then we went down. By the way, beautiful day. As much as I complained about the heat in Nashville and everyone was complaining about the heat in Texas and all that stuff, man, it was a honey of a weekend down in Charlotte both days, particularly on Sunday. We watched the Cup race, we watched the Xfinity race. We watched it from the stands. We were able to just grab a couple of seats in the stands. We didn't have a box or anything like that. Great race on Saturday. And then Sunday's race came around. And, again, another just great, great day. Kyle Larson was in a backup car after hitting the wall on Saturday in practice. So he had started way back. Tyler Reddick was on the pole. He led for the beginning of the race, I think the first 15 laps, and then he didn't win stage one. Chase Elliott, who we were kind of on this week. Like everyone sort of had renewed interest in Chase Elliott this week from a betting standpoint, at least on this podcast. And he stayed out, like I had mentioned before, last second from pit row when a caution came out. I thought it was like Balicki who hit a wall. It might have been B.J. McLeod. And he wound up winning stage 2. So it was good to see Chase out front for a while. Kyle Busch was the guy.
That wreck did fuck him for the race, though.
Yeah, I know. Unfortunately,
it let him win the stage, but that wasn't what he wanted, I don't think.
Yeah, he didn't give a shit about the stage type thing, but yeah. But still, like when he was kind of out front, we were in the box, and Spider was, kind of doing his commentary thing for the people who were there. We were having some fun with it, just having Chase out there. Everybody was looking at Kyle Busch because it was a need to win for him, particularly as these stages were won by other people. And he was in it with 10 laps left. But for the first time this playoffs, a non-playoff driver won, and that was A.J. Allmendinger, right? So Allmendinger led twice for a race-high 46 laps, including the last 33. He beat William Byron. Like, it was funny. You saw Allmendinger and Kyle Busch kind of battling for the lead, and as soon as, Allmendinger sort of pulled ahead, William Byron snuck in there. And so A.J. Allmendinger went from battling Kyle Busch for the lead to having William Byron, who's been in a rocket ship this year, everyone knows that, breathing down his neck right until the checkered flag. It was a very, very good race to watch, I thought. But Allmendinger beat Byron by .666, number of the beast, .666 seconds to win his first Cup race of the season. This was his first time winning at the Charlotte Roval, and it's his third Cup Series victory. All of his Cup Series victories have been on road courses. That win snapped a 50-race losing streak, and Kaulig, who he's racing for, has been in Cup full-time for 2 years and now has 2 wins, both of them from A.J. Allmendinger. And to reward A.J. Allmendinger for all this good stuff, looks like he's going to be kicked back down to Xfinity. So you can't figure it out, but we're extremely happy for him. A.J. is so, I don't know, he just had the baby. He named his baby, I don't know what AJ's name is.
Arrow, I think.
Yeah, the baby's name is Arrow James or whatever. So he, instead of giving away the checkered flag, which I know some people do, he's like, nope, I'm going home and wrapping Arrow in this. He's very, very emotional, as were everybody in the pit crew. It was pretty cool to watch. Everyone sort of felt they were settling by going to see the Roval. We even spoke to Austin Dillon at the drivers' meeting, and he's like, I'll do what I can here, but I don't know why we're racing on a road course on a perfectly good oval. And I think that was the feeling for a lot of the drivers and perhaps a lot of people who were watching until the race started. It was relatively clean. There was some passing. So I'm sort of coming around on the Roval more than I was before I'd gone down to see it live. You guys kind of in agreement?
Yeah, the third stage was good. The first 2 were dragging. But I don't know. There's just not a ton of passing, not a ton of movement on it. I don't know. The Roval, when people are racing hard and trying to make moves like they were in the third stage, it's a very fun track. But I don't know. It can be a little bit stale sometimes.
Denny had a tough
I wish we had more drama.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, we saw Chase Elliott and Kevin Harvick feuding a couple of years ago here, or Harvick going into the tire barrier, missing the turn. Some drama like that would have been cool.
That I do think that them doing the restarts on that little S turn, I think that takes a lot away from how exciting them going full speed in that turn one was.
For sure.
Because that really was where a lot of like previous years' excitement came from, and that turn just wasn't like the devious turn it usually is.
Heartburn turn. I can tell you right now, Spider and I and Devlin, we did not even, for the first time in a long time, we went to a racetrack and we were there for multiple days. We did not go to the infield. So I don't know what the infield was as far as like that party atmosphere. I told you guys I was so impressed with the way they were partying in the infield in Michigan, for example, just because we didn't have a golf cart. This wasn't a NASCAR trip. This was a Coke trip. And I didn't know how the hell to get out. Like, it's very, very fucking confusing, right, Spider? I mean, there was like a no
you have to know
land.
where the tunnels are at.
Yeah. So, I see that it's on the schedule for next year. I'm looking forward to going back to Charlotte. I'd love to see something on the quad oval at some point, but it was a great, great weekend nonetheless. I didn't get too granular because I'm going to leave it up to you, Spider, with the over-under, but what did you see this weekend that you thought outperformed or underperformed?
Yeah, so I'm going to start with Ty Gibbs, who I think finished fourth. Really impressed with him. I don't know, I felt like he was running pretty well this whole race. And then the other overs, I have two more for this week, and neither of them are racing related. I'm taking Liv Morgan and her WWE skill set. She's a very personable person, outgoing, and a big fan of NASCAR. So I think she killed the driver start your engine. She did a great job with that, and she brought a lot of vibes to the track. So credit where credit's due. And then probably my last one of the week is Bojangles.
Jesus Christ.
So, Charlotte Motor Speedway has like maybe 10 Bojangles in their stands, little kiosks. I kept going. I went Saturday and I was like, holy shit, these chicken tenders are actually fire. The fries were great. They had these great seasoned fries. And, I just lived in New York for a decade now, in Chicago. I don't think Bojangles is in either of those cities. So I saw it. It's not, right, Quiggs?
No, Bojangles is the best.
Yeah, so I saw it and I was like, dude, I need to try this. I love trying fast food that is local to whatever area I'm in. For Nebraska college football show a couple weeks ago, we had these things called a runza, which is basically like a cheesesteak within a completely enclosed hoagie roll. Really cool. Glad I got to try that. And then in Charlotte, I got to try Bojangles, and I'm really glad I did. Not only did I try it on Saturday, but I went back on Sunday and got another. I doubled the order. That's how good it was.
You
really
gotta do
good
their
quality.
breakfast too.
Really good quality chicken tenders. I was not prepared for that. I know a lot of people are very particular about who they rock with in the chicken war game, but I think Bojangles deserves way more love.
He came back.
Large, you tried it. What did you think?
You came back to the seats when we were in the stands, and you're like, I think I'm going to go back for a second round. I was like, I don't know. We're going to dinner tonight and stuff. So you didn't do that. And then the second day on Sunday, we're in a luxury box, fully catered. Like, again, Coca-Cola doesn't exactly just give you chips and dip. They hook you up. Spider went twice, left the box twice to go get Bojangles. So, again,
Bojangles confirmed elite. I'm prepared to say it.
Yeah, you won't put it above Chick-fil-A.
I think Chick-fil-A probably holds the crown right now just for how diverse and, I don't know, they kind of have a grip on the chicken game, in my opinion. But I would say Chick-fil-A is probably my number one, Raising Cane's number two, and then Hooters, Bojangles 3. So those are probably my top four chicken joints right now. Although I'm also, let me round out the top five.
Please.
I know Shake Shack's a burger spot. The chicken sandwich from Shake Shack goes crazy. You got to try that as well. If you want Chick-fil-A on a Sunday and you can't get it, obviously they're closed, order the Shake Shack chicken sandwich. You will not be disappointed.
So, yeah, so I like, as much as Bojangles had a great weekend for us in Charlotte, I could tell you another food that didn't, and that was the Tostino's pizza rolls. The 47 did not have a good day. They did not.
It looked cool.
Yeah, look, the paint scheme looked fucking dope, but he went on fire. Like, we talk about burnt
like a
pizza rolls
fire.
all the time. Yeah,
He left the Totinos in too long.
Yeah, so I put the 47 on the unfortunately Ricky Stenhouse's team in the under. Spider, do you mind if I mention a couple other overs?
No, please do.
William Byron has been in the last 3 playoff races has come in first, second, and second. I mean, that's crazy. William Byron doesn't need to be on fire after that first place, to start this round of the playoffs. And then he pulls off 2, second to Blaney and then second to A.J. Allmendinger in the past 2 races. And I got to give props to Tyler Reddick. He was below the cut line. Everyone just expected him to do well on these road courses, and he delivered. Like, he's had problems where he's either raced very well or hasn't finished. And by sitting on the pole, winning the first stage, he pulled himself out of contention to be cut. And I think that should be applauded, right? It's a ballsy move. He raced very well, and congratulations to him. And I will tell you one other thing. Truex, I know, makes it through, but he's had no top 10s and an average finish of 21 in the past 7 races. I love Martin Truex, but holy shit, he's fallen off.
I would probably take the under on him for this week, 20th place finish. Expected him to do more at a road course given what we saw at Sonoma earlier this year.
Right. It just seems like, I don't know, he's lost his mojo a little bit. Maybe this next set of tracks, with Las Vegas, Homestead, and Martinsville will be better for Truex. But otherwise, he's been kind of shitting the bed as of late. I have a question for you guys. Bubba Wallace is one of the people who was eliminated this week. And Michael Jordan, as he typically does, came over and had his hand on his head and all that stuff. And Bubba seemed to took it in stride. Like, even in the post-race interview, he didn't seem upset. He was like, we weren't supposed to be here. Now at least they'll pencil us in as people who are supposed to be here. I wish I would have made some of the moves that, my teammate did. Does Michael Jordan, have you ever seen him congratulate Tyler Reddick?
I haven't, but I'm not prepared to take your side on this, Large. I think, to me, since we just did the over and under segment,
right,
in terms of ownership, I'm taking the over on MJ all day. He seems to be very involved and hands-on, and the amount of times he's at the track when we are, or I see it on Twitter, he's at on the top of a pit box for one of their 2 cars. I was not prepared for MJ to be that invested. Now, I know, obviously, he's a big NASCAR fan. He grew up in North Carolina. That's always been something he's liked. But he still has so many business ventures going on, so many different, things he could devote his time to, and he still consistently shows up to the track and is seemingly heavily invested in 2311. So, I don't know. To me, I'd still think he's doing more than what I thought.
I mean, I've seen him interact with Tyler before, but not full blown, just kind of like a pat on the back, good race, that's it. I've never seen them go into full blown conversations.
Yeah, I don't know. I think Tyler deserves a little bit more attention, particularly after a race where, like the type of race that he had this weekend. I thought, he did what he had to do to stay alive. He's the only person in 2311 who is alive. Congratulations to Bubba and all that stuff. By the way, Bubba Wallace was very cool to us at the kickball game. I don't think we've ever had him on the show. Have we, Spider? I don't think we've had Bubba on.
I did an interview
once.
with Bubba after his first Cup win, 2021, 2022?
Right.
At Talladega, I believe.
Right, and I'm dying to have him on. He's always so goddamn gracious whenever he sees us. So this isn't a dig on him. It's a dig on Michael. Spread the fucking love. Because if Tyler Reddick starts to feel like an unloved child, I got a real problem with Michael Jordan. How about that?
It could also be what clips get posted on the internet.
Right.
He may have had the exact same combo.
Quicks, don't try to calm me down
Reddick.
here. Let's.
Hey,
I look at it like
I'm
this.
just trying to defend MJ.
Okay.
He needs it.
Has Bubba ran any Jordan schemes? I feel like they've all been on Tyler Reddick's car.
Right.
So in that, when you look at it from that lane, it looks like Tyler's getting more love from Jordan than Bubba is. So I wouldn't read too much into it.
Okay. Then I'll walk away. Before we go on, I want to ask you guys a question. With Kyle Busch now out of the playoffs, right? How do you rate this season, Kyle Busch's season? I mean, I think I know how he seemed pretty disappointed. Obviously, didn't say anything that was sound bitey after the race. but 3 wins and made it to the round of 12 in this new car. You think that's a successful season? You think that's an over or an under?
I'm taking the over on that personally. You look at Kyle Busch's season last year, and granted there was a lot of drama and moving pieces, but he struggled. And then this year to get wins as early as he did, he got win the second race of the season. So to come in and prove that he can win and wheel that equipment pretty much similarly, if not better than how he looked the year before, was over for me. Now, if you told me that he was going to have 3 wins this season, I'd probably take that as a win prior to the season. So, while I did have higher expectations for him based on how good he looked early this season, now in the playoffs, I still think the season overall is a win for him.
I think the opposite a little bit. Just from like the wins are great and you'll be happy with that, but just for a guy with good equipment and the driver he is, the amount of races that he was just not competitive in at all was like, I don't think he'd be happy with that. Like there was probably 20 races this year that he just was not a factor, didn't have a chance to win it, had like issues. And I think for him, he wants to be like, he's capable of being a top 5 driver in any race and let's just say even like top 10, where he just like wouldn't be happy with the way a lot of these races have gone.
I got to be honest with you. You said when he won in California to start off, it's kind of front loaded, even though he won in Gateway. If you want to talk about races that he disappeared in, it's, the first 2 races of this round of the playoffs too. Like he said, I wish I could get back Talladega and Texas. Finishing 34th and 25th. Indy Road Course 36, New Hampshire 36, Kansas 35th. There are a lot of them here at Michigan 37th. So, yeah, it's either he won races or he basically didn't finish. The only reason that I sort of skew it a little bit towards the over, so it would be 2-1 Spider and I versus you, Quiggs, is that he also sold KBM for a fucking bag. On top of doing all this, on top of wheeling it, having 3 wins, making it to the round of 12, having his son, start to establish himself. Like, you think about it in the bigger picture, he sold his $16 million mansion, sold KBM and got a shitload of dough for it. It's, I don't know. Like, perhaps I would gear it towards the over. I had sent out some paint scheme stuff. I know we try to look at some paint schemes every week. Spider and I got to see the DeWalt, the number 20 that you liked, Quiggs, prior to this week.
How'd that look?
I thought it looked pretty dope in person. I thought it looked actually better in the pictures that I had seen. Spider, anything jump out at you when you saw these things in person?
No, but I do want to. Well, I shouldn't say no. I did like the Totino's 47. I thought
it was funny when it was on fire, though. It was funny to watch a pizza. Once we saw Ricky got out, to see a pizza roll on fire, it's happened to all of us.
I think Suarez's 99 Aqua Fresca was sick. Ty Gibbs Interstate Battery 45. Tyler Reddick had a sick Jordan scheme, as he does for next week as well. But I really like the fact that some of the teams did pink window nets for Breast Cancer Awareness Month. So like Chastain and Almirola, they have like baby blue cars, and then they have the pink window nets. It's almost like a Miami Vice cotton candy kind of color scheme, and I really like that. So those would probably be the ones that stuck out to me this week. Did I miss any, guys?
I like the Daniel Suarez's was sick, and they got their money's worth. He was kind of everywhere on the track.
He was.
Like, especially in the early parts where not much was happening, he was the only one kind of causing a little chaos. But yeah, and the pink window nets I think are sick. I wonder if those like ever kind of throw drivers off, because you just kind of get like a flash of color in your peripheral.
Yeah, I mean, I guess
I would assume it's black on the backside, but
that's interesting.
Still a little bit of like catch a glimpse of something out of the corner of your eye.
I dug particularly the soles of the 45. How it had that old, I can't remember which Jordan it was. It wasn't the 6s. It was the 3s. Had that sole that had the splash paint coming up the side of it. Yep. So I like that on a 45. And I'll throw in Eric Almirola, too, riding in the IHOP car. That was kind of cool. Yep. But the best, I think, was probably seeing the Totinos being on fire. All right. let's get into the preview. So we're heading to Vegas, heading to Las Vegas on Sunday, October 15th at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time. It's going to be the South Point 400 from Las Vegas Motor Speedway. It's the Diamond in the Desert. 267 laps on a 1.5-mile D-shaped oval. So stage 1 ends at lap 80. Stage 2 will be at 165. And then checkered will be at 267, lap 267. William Byron won here earlier in the year. That was one where Logano, I believe, caught some air. Remember there was that Logano sort of came out into the infield and caught a little bit of air. It's a fun track. It's a fun track to watch. And the picks probably will be, I don't think the picks now for the rest of the season will be too all over the place because we just have so many people. I don't know, like I'm kind of convinced that it's probably going to be won by a playoff driver. Do you guys want to give out some picks? Who wants to go first?
I'm happy to go first, and I only really have one this week. And I'm going to go with Kyle Larson. I just think he's looked good at these kind of tracks. He's plus 450. I know it's another chalky pick. That's 2 weeks straight. But to me, Larson and Denny have looked the strongest here. And I think that those guys are probably two guys I would feel comfortable locking into my championship for as of right now. So it'd probably be one of those two. I'm going to go with Kyle Larson. I do think there's probably some value in Byron plus 550, especially as you said, Large, how consistent he's been running, even last week finishing second. But Kyle Larson plus 450. Let's get Kyle in a good spot. We have championship future on him as well, so I would like to see him kind of narrow the gap. Right now, Byron leads in terms of championship future odds, but I think Kyle could potentially close that, so I would like to see him do it this week.
Who do you like, Quiggs?
I got two drivers. I'll do my playoff driver first. I don't know. I didn't like any of those guys that had the 400 odds. Just felt a little low for a race, but I'm going with Martin Truex plus 800. I think he gets off his little skid a little bit. He's won here before. In the last 10 races, he's been in the top 10 for all of them. So I like that at plus 800. And then the guy who's had the most success on this track recently is Joey Logano with 3 wins in his last 10, and he's plus 3,000. So non-playoff driver, probably doesn't have the juice he would have had if like in previous years, but at plus 3,000, I gotta take a shot on that.
I agree. I agree with everything. I mean, Larson won't have the troubles that he had going into the Roval. So, I mean, I think there's a reason. These are pretty short. They're very short odds for those top 3.
Yeah.
The plus 450s and stuff.
And in fairness, it's probably going to be one of those top 3 that
No,
win.
absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I could see, you know what? I can make an argument for a lot of the people on this list, but it seems like if I'm looking just for some value, I'll probably go to playoff drivers who have non-playoff drivers ahead of them. You know, somebody like Chris Buescher or Ryan Blaney. Like Ryan Blaney is plus 1,400 and Chris Buescher is plus 1,600. Like I
like Blaney.
Yeah, I'd be more inclined to either jump on one of those two or maybe both.
I have a feeling that Blaney is going to be in the top 4.
I would love it.
Yeah,
I think he's going to come on heavy at the end of the season.
Yeah, I'll take the value on the 2 playoff drivers who are not, overwhelming favorites. So I'll take Blaney at plus 1,400. I'll take Chris Buescher. The Chris Buescher story has been a great one. Let's take him at plus 1,600. So that'll be my 2 picks. I wasn't able to see anything outside of that. I was actually taking a look at Ty Gibbs, but Ty Gibbs is shorter odds than Joey Logano, plus 2,800. I thought he'd kind of be a little bit further out. He's been racing very well, but I wanted to sort of give him a look too. So maybe I'll splash something on Ty Gibbs. But for the thing, I'm going to go Chris Buescher and Ryan Blaney. Guys, we know who's left here, right? We know that the top 4 in standing is William Byron, Martin Truex, Denny Hamlin, and Kyle Larson, in that order. Those are the top 4 that are left. And then behind them is Chris Buescher, Tyler Reddick, Christopher Bell, and Ryan Blaney. As we're a couple of weeks away from this thing being done, before we enter into this round of the playoffs, who do you guys think will not make it to the round of 4 who is in the top 4 now. So Byron, Truex, Hamlin, and Larson. Are you guys convinced that's the final 4? That's who's getting through? Or do you think there's somebody within that realm that will not be there in Phoenix for the final 4?
If there's one I had to pick, I'd probably pick Truex, and that's based on the stat that you said a couple minutes ago, Larch. He's been running he's regressed a little from where he looked earlier this season. He looked really strong, and then he's kind of cooled off a little. So for that reason, I would probably say Truex. Out of the guys in the top 4, Truex would probably be the one I'm most concerned about.
Who you replace him with?
That's tough. I mean, if you're asking me if I'm going with my heart, I would love for it to be Reddick or Blaney, but I don't know. I mean, the same thing I said about Martin Truex is true about Chris Buescher. He looked dominant for like that 5-week stretch, and then he's kind of cooled off a little bit. So
if you're talking with your heart, you see Truex not making it and Tyler making it in instead of him. Or am I putting words in your mouth?
No. If I'm speaking with my heart, though, that's what I want to happen.
Right.
Byron, Denny, Larson, and then Reddick or Blaney. But I'm not super confident that's going to happen. I mean, as you guys know, I'm pretty chalky with my picks, so I don't know. Quiggs, what do you think out of this?
A little different. I think Truex gets a win in the next 3 races and locks himself in, no matter how bad he races on the other ones.
Yeah.
I think Blaney gets in, and maybe not even with a win. Maybe points his way in. I think he's just going to be solid in these next couple races. And I think it's either going to be Hamlin or Larson who doesn't make it. And I think it's whichever one of them have a race where they have car issues, they get a do not finish, and that's going to fuck them a little bit. But yeah, I think Byron's pretty secure. I'm kind of guessing that Truex gets a win, and then I think Blaney below the cut line will be the guy that is really putting in some good finishes.
If I had to guess, I'd say Kyle Larson won't make it to the final 4. And if that were to come true, I don't feel this. I'm just with a gun to my head. If I had to pick somebody, if that were to come true, it would be because of something that happens outside of his control. Similar to what you're saying, Quigg. Somebody spins him or something like that.
Yeah.
So he gets
somebody in that top 4 is going to have a race where they don't finish.
Everyone has obviously the talent to be a top 4 driver who are in the top 4. It looks very good. Even though Martin hasn't been driving that well lately, I think he snaps out of it. So I guess if I'd have to pick somebody, and again, it's Sophie's choice, probably Kyle Larson. All right, so that's it. So we're going into a very good weekend here in Las Vegas, and then we're going right into Miami, then Martinsville before the big finale in Phoenix. Everybody tune in Sunday, 2:30 on NBC. And do we need to mention anything before we go?
Yeah, I got one for you, Large. So I know obviously this is coming out on Thursday, but as well as coming out on Thursday is the NASCAR Barstool 4-play 4-man scramble. So myself, Trent, Frankie, and Riggs played golf in North Carolina against Denny Hamlin, Ryan Blaney, Bubba Wallace, and Ricky Stenhouse. That video drops tomorrow or today when you're listening to this. So go on to 4Play YouTube. Go check that out. We had a good time in North Carolina playing 9 holes of golf with that crew. And no spoilers, one of us won, so you have to see. Gets a little interesting there. And
I will mention one other thing. I was at the track wearing the Barstool Outdoors collaboration with Bass Pro Shops. I'm actually wearing it now. It's got a pretty cool, I'm not going to turn around, but it's got a pretty cool Bass Pro Shops bass with a football helmet on and whatnot. So their collabo with Barstool Outdoors, a bunch of people had said that they wanted it. It's available in the Barstool store. You just search Barstool Outdoors, and you'll see the collabo with Bass Pro Shops, and it's pretty cool. So outside that, Quiggs, you got anything?
Got nothing.
All right, cool. All right, so that's it for Rubbing His Racing. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.